Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this week, of course, we have some huge news with Tim Cook stepping down as CEO, also iOS 27 supported devices, iOS 26.4.2, and more. This is your weekly Apple News update for the week of April 20th, 2026. Now, of course, the biggest news this week is Tim Cook is stepping down as CEO. You can see Apple announced it on their newsroom website where it says Tim Cook to become Apple Executive Chairman, John Ternus to become Apple CEO. This takes place on September 1st, and you'll see John Ternus will take his place, where he's the Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering currently, but he will become the next Chief Executive Officer. So you'll see that change is going to take place, and then Johnny Srouji will be named Apple's Chief Hardware Officer. So those changes are taking place in September, and we're already starting to see John Ternus rearrange some things internally, and we'll see some changes with hardware, software, and more, as he's said to be more like Steve Jobs and focused on design and software and hardware. So hopefully we see some things fixed that we haven't seen before, and maybe some things we never expected. But let me know what you think of John Ternus taking over as CEO in the comments below. And right after the announcement on the Apple Newsroom website, Tim Cook posted a community letter from Tim on Apple.com. You can read the letter about his past 15 years, more about John Ternus or what he thinks about him, and the future of Apple. So be sure to check this out if you're interested in seeing where Apple's headed and what Tim Cook thought as far as being the leader of Apple overall. It seems Apple is planning a new store in Zurich, Switzerland. A permit filed in the country shows the store is planned for 2027, with construction ending in early 2027. When complete, the store will be one of the largest Apple stores in Europe. Apple continues to increase sales in the smartphone market within China, and Counterpoint Research has said that Apple is now in second place with a 20% gain in shipments year over year. So this is big news as Apple redesigned the phone with the iPhone 17 Pro, 17 Pro Max, and of course the new orange color. It seems it really helped sales out. Also, iPhone loyalty has also seen an increase, where Cell conducted a survey where 5,000 people were asked about their upgrade plans. According to the actual survey, you can see here on Cell, it seems a huge amount of people would buy another iPhone, 96.4%. So it seems that most people that already have an iPhone are likely to stay with an iPhone, but even Android users are more likely to switch to iPhone, at least according to their different survey that they did. Of course, that's only 5,000 people, and demographic matters as well, but at this point it seems like quite a few people are moving toward iPhone or sticking with it. Now back on Apple.com, with the MacBook Neo, this is a huge hit this year. If you were to order a MacBook Neo today, it's delayed quite some time. So if we scroll down here, maybe we'll select what seems to be one of the more popular colors with indigo. We'll scroll down, select the Magic Keyboard, and you'll see here that at the top it says it's unavailable for 2-hour delivery, and you can pick it up May 14th. If you order it, it arrives May 6th to May 13th. So it's a couple weeks out and continues to be pushed out as it's a hugely popular device. Now, for some time, the government in India wanted Apple to pre-install government apps on iPhone. India has finally dropped those plans to force Apple to do this, as well as other smartphone makers. So this is great news that you won't have pre-installed apps from the government, and they'll have no oversight over the phone. You can, of course, install your own apps if you'd like to do that, and maybe see what's going on locally. Apple CarPlay Ultra so far is only on the Aston Martin DBX, which is over $200,000 in the United States. CarPlay Ultra is different than regular CarPlay, where it takes over all of the gauges and everything else, with custom graphics from Aston Martin integrated directly into an Apple design language. However, CarPlay Ultra will soon be available to future Kia, Hyundai, and Genesis vehicles. So hopefully we'll see those very soon, and I think they fit better on the other vehicles where something like an Aston Martin is more bespoke. Maybe you would want something more custom. Another Apple veteran has retired after 31 years of service. Stan NG recently was the Vice President of Product Marketing for Apple Watch, AirPods, Health, and Home. He's now left the company and is retiring, along with many others that have been there for many years. Apple also has a new ad in South Korea where it shows putting stickers on your iPhone's camera plateau. Now, this is something I wouldn't personally do, but I'm sure many people would appreciate with customization, as you see it on Macs already. But let me know what you think of this. If you had stickers for your camera plateau, would you put them there? Or do you prefer to keep the camera plateau clean like I do? Let me know in the comments below. Apple published a newsroom update this past week stating that they've hit a record 30% recycled content in all of their products. You'll see on their newsroom post that Apple accelerates environmental progress with highest ever recycled materials in its products. So it's a new milestone from Apple, reusing things such as aluminum, as well as cobalt in its batteries. So that's great news, especially for batteries, and you can see more about it on the newsroom post I'll link in the description. As far as apps this week, Anthropic showed off a new Claude design updated for creating mockups, prototypes, and overall designs just by giving it a prompt. You'll see Introducing Claude Design by Anthropic Labs. So that's available now. Be sure to check it out if you're using Claude or any other AI. It's definitely impressive, and if you want to maybe mock up a design, this would be a very easy way to do that and get the results you're looking for. When it comes to other updates, well, I mentioned in the iOS 26.5 Beta 3 is out what's new video that there's a new sports update, but I wanted to share it here. And with the sports app, we now have new updates where it says get ready for World Cup 2026, follow your favorite teams and explore the groups on Apple Sports before the tournament kicks off in June. Also now F1 fans can see weather conditions for each Grand Prix, check track temperature, wind speed, and more. And also there's a smaller widget available for Apple Sports, and you can also use that in CarPlay now as well. If we go into it, open it up, give it just a second, you'll see a new banner as well for the 2026 World Cup. So be sure to update this if it's available in your country. When it comes to deals available this week from Apple, it seems the AirPods Pro 3 are still on perpetual discount, down to about $199, originally around $250, so you can pick these up from Amazon directly from Apple. So I'll link those in the description. We also have discounts on MacBook Air M5 where it's $150 off, MacBook Pro is up to $200 off, and Apple Watch Ultra 3 is $99 off. So I'll link all of those in the description below. As far as updates this week, well, iOS 26.4 is no longer being signed by Apple, which means you can't downgrade to it. This means it only leaves available iOS 26.4.1 as well as iOS 26.5 betas to install or restore your iPhone. Typically when this happens, we'll get another version, and it seems iOS 26.4.2 is coming soon. I mentioned it this past weekend, but now MacRumors has also found the use of the new version in their analytics, so we could see that as soon as this week. Now with iOS 26.5 Beta 4, we could see that as soon as next Monday. Now depending on what we see, we could see Beta 4 or the RC or release candidate. If we see the RC, we could see a public release on May 4th. If we don't have the RC and we have a Beta 4, I would expect the RC on the 4th with a public release around the 11th. Apple hasn't said how many betas there will be, but we'll have to wait and see, as it seems they're not adding a ton of features at this point, so maybe we'll see the RC next. Of course, we'll see iOS 26.6 after that, but all of us are waiting for iOS 27. We'll see that for the first time at WWDC 2026 on June 8th. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and there's some more features to talk about that were leaked. A new leak from Instant Digital on Weibo has said that iOS 27 will not support a few different phones this year. They're supposedly getting rid of support for iPhone 11, as well as the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. Now, if this is just a refinement update, that doesn't make a ton of sense, but maybe it just doesn't have the ability to be as smooth as the other phones, and they don't want to support all those devices. Of course, it will get security updates for many years to follow, but no feature updates beyond iOS 26 if the leak is correct. Last week, we also heard from MacRumors about features coming to iOS 27, but this past weekend, Mark Gurman gave an update on a couple other updates to expect with iOS 27. So if we press here, we go into jiggle mode, go to edit, we already have add widget, customize, edit wallpaper, and edit pages. According to Mark Gurman, we could have an undo and redo button here as well. That would be very helpful if maybe we change something, we don't like it, we want to change it back quickly. I've wanted something like that for quite some time. I would also like the option to maybe sync wallpaper across devices. Of course, it would require larger wallpaper that could shrink down, but I would love to see that myself, going across maybe your iPad and Mac, but at least have an option for it. Now, of course, we will get a new Siri update with a new design. It will integrate directly into the OS, and according to Mark Gurman, it will take place in the dynamic island. So when you activate Siri, instead of being a ring around the outside, it would sort of light up the dynamic island and light it up a little bit differently than we see now, more like what we saw with the WWDC invite or the announcement. He's saying it'd be more bright like this, and this is a hint of what to expect. So it could get a similar design to that, but we'll have to wait and see. Of course, we'll also see maybe a separate app for Siri that's more of a chatbot, but again, we'll have to wait and see what Apple actually announces on June 8th. We've also heard that Apple could be integrating a liquid glass slider. I know many people would appreciate that. I actually like liquid glass, but again, within liquid glass, you should be able to change it from clear to tinted, and maybe we'll have a slider here as well. So if the overall translucency isn't great for you, you could turn that off entirely in theory. Now, the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro and 18 Pro Max should have some new colors this year. Many people have been talking about it, and a new leak from Macworld has said there will be 4 different colors. The first new color is called Deep Cherry, so it's not quite the red we were hoping for, a new light blue, dark gray, and silver. So instead of just having 3 colors like we do now with silver, cosmic orange, and deep blue, we would instead have an additional color as well. I'm not sure which one I would want. I'd have to see the Deep Cherry in person, but maybe I'd go for light blue or silver again. I'm not really sure, but no black color. Maybe dark gray would be nice, but again, we'll have to wait and see if that's what they release. We've also been hearing that one new feature from the iPhone 18 Pro models is they could have a variable aperture camera. According to ET News in South Korea, Apple has started pushing the supply chain to get the camera ready for iPhone 18 Pro and 18 Pro Max this year. However, the 200 megapixel zoom camera, or depending on what they're going to use that for, seems like it may not be available with the 18 Pro models and may be pushed to the iPhone 19 or iPhone 20, whatever Apple calls it. So it looks like the 200 megapixel version won't be available this year, but we will have a variable aperture. That could help with overall glare, but also allow more light to get into the sensor for darker pictures showing less noise, so we'll have to wait and see what they're actually using it for. Now, iPhone Fold has been seeing some delays as Apple works out how to get the device up to their standards. According to DigiTimes, Apple is a bit behind, but still planning to launch it later this year. They want a perfectly flat display with no crease, and of course they want it to be durable as well, so it may take some time for them to develop it, but we still again should see it later this year. We've also seen the new design of the iPhone Ultra from Sonny Dixon, but also some cases have been shown matching the same design. So it's not sort of as tall as the Z Fold 7 that I have here, but rather more squat and a little bit wider, more like an iPad mini when you were using it in landscape. So that would be great for viewing video content, but we'll have to wait and see how that works with multitasking and more. Also, a new leak by Instant Digital said Apple went out of their way to make sure that the camera control was added to the device. So camera control on the side, but maybe no MagSafe on the back. So that's something I would definitely want with MagSafe, but it's possible it won't have MagSafe, making room for other components inside like larger batteries. But when opened, the new iPhone Fold or iPhone Ultra could have sort of the same dimensions as this iPad mini as it is open, and then of course halved when folded. And speaking of iPad, we've been waiting for more OLED iPads for some time, and it seems the iPad mini could be next, getting an OLED display later this year or next. Depending on the source, some have said we could see it this year, while others believe it will be in 2027. However, Instant Digital on Weibo, who has a good track record, thinks it will be released in 2026. Similarly, we expect the iPad Air to get the OLED upgrade eventually as well, and ET News in South Korea believes we'll see it in 2027. Since the iPad Air was just updated, I would definitely say the earliest we'll see it is next year, so that makes more sense. So if they're going to move everything over to OLED, including the MacBook maybe later, we should see it on the iPads as well, and maybe on everything except the base iPad. Now, we're still waiting for an updated Mac Studio with an M5 Max and M5 Ultra chip. We'd hope to see the update in the middle of this year around WWDC 2026, along with maybe a Mac Mini M5 update and iMac, but due to the global memory shortage, Mark Gurman has said to now expect the updated Mac Studio later around the October timeframe. So we may not see those until later this year, depending on the overall chip availability. Now, the rumored design refresh of the upcoming MacBook Pro, or some are calling it MacBook Ultra, may be later than expected, again due to that same chip shortage. They could be pushed to early next year if the memory's not available, and this is according to Mark Gurman. So again, depending on the overall availability of chipsets, memory, and more, we may have to wait a little bit longer to get a touchscreen Mac with an OLED display and a redesigned chassis. We'll have to wait and see what Apple does there. So that's everything with the news so far this week. Of course, huge news with Tim Cook stepping down later this year and then John Ternus taking over. Let me know what you think of that transition in the comments below, what you think will become of Apple's software, hardware, and more after he takes over. I'd love to hear from you there. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.